For the first time in more than 25 years, the FDA has signed off on a new type of pain reliever. The drug, which will be sold under the name Journavx, is billed as non-addictive and an alternative to opioids. Drug makers say the newly approved medicine will cost about $15.50 per pill, and that patient assistant programs will be available for those who need it. Joining us now to talk more about this painkiller and what this really means going forward, Dr. Pyle Coley.
So let's talk about what Journavx does and doesn't do. First, the $15 a pill sounds a little pricey. Is this something we're going to see over the counter, or is this going to be prescription only?
No, prescription only, and $15.50 per pill for twice a day is quite pricey. So you're talking about a price tag of $30. That's the wholesale price to treat, pain, moderate to severe pain. So certainly cost is always a consideration. I like to say one of the biggest barriers to me as a doctor prescribing something, it's not the medication, it's not the science, it's the cost. And so unless that price tag comes down, Tom, I agree with you, it might be a barrier to some people seeking, to use it.
Well, the idea is this is not something you would get like a Tylenol, Advil, Aleve. You'd need it because you were in some serious pain post-surgery or something.
Yeah.
But the idea is that it's not an opioid,
right,
or it breaks that cycle where so many people are put on and off of opioids.
Yeah, so you think about the epidemic, it's ongoing in my opinion, because we have 85,000 new Americans who get addicted to opioids every single year. And it usually happens kind of in a benign way. You get on it after surgery, your wisdom teeth come out, something else happens, and then you become addicted. So the idea here is to substitute a habit-forming addictive opioid for this type of a drug, which would be used for moderate to severe acute pain. So you're talking about a surgery or a trauma. You're not talking about chronic pain here for a short period of time as a way to not have as much of that habit forming.
And I heard it described as it sends a message to the brain, that you're not in pain and then you're able to start recovering or something like that without addicting you.
Yeah,
is that true?
It is kind of true. So it's actually the opposite. It turns off the message to the brain.
Turns off the message, I should
So think
say.
about what happens when you cut your finger, right? The finger feels it and then sends that message to the brain to interpret that as pain. So this actually turns off the neurons or the receptors on the fingertip there so that message never gets to the brain. So unlike opioids, which work in the brain to change the perception and therefore create that euphoria, that happy feeling.
So that's why opioids make you feel so happy.
Right, because they're up in the brain. This never gets to the brain. It turns off the channels right in the fingertip there so that you don't actually feel that pain. And it's fascinating how this was discovered. So there was a family in Pakistan who could walk on hot coals and their feet wouldn't burn. They would feel the coals, they would feel the heat, but they wouldn't feel the perception.
They weren't
of
doing
pain.
a Tony Robbins event? Okay.
And that's how they realized that they had a mutation that turned off the sodium channel, and that's how they turned off the neurons that carried the signal to the brain. So that's what led to the development of this drug 25 years later.
$15.50 per pill now, but we see so much marketing that goes into this type of stuff. We all can sing the Ozempic song and the
Yes.
Jardiance commercial. I mean, they're barrage everyday Americans telling them what they need.
Yeah.
This is going to happen with this stuff too, isn't it?
Very much so. And I think as physicians, we're very excited about the prospect of it not being habit forming or addictive. But I'll say here is my grain of salt with this. We don't have that long-term data. So we don't actually have the studies that tell us that it's not habit forming.
Side effects?
That there's no psychological dependence. The side effects actually are not that bad. It's pretty minimal. Some people will get a rash. It can make your birth control effectiveness variable. So if you're a woman on birth control, you want to keep that in mind. You can get some blood tests, elevations, but pretty good side effect profile. To me, it's more the question of over time, do you need higher doses of this medicine to get the same effect? So if you're someone who's using it every month for post-operative pain, or you're an athlete who keeps getting injured and you're using
You walk
it
on hot coals.
Well, that's what I'm worried about is if you're trying to heal and all of a sudden you don't feel it, are you doing your physical therapy, and how do you know if you're still hurting?
Yeah. So, I mean, the idea of pain being sort of beneficial to us is also something that I think we need to embrace as a society. We often think pain is bad, we have to shut it down, but some degree of pain obviously evolved to protect us. But I am very excited as a physician about the prospect of this. I just think we need more data to make sure it's not addictive, make sure it's not habit forming, make sure you don't need higher doses to get the same effect. And to your point, Tom, the cost has to come down so that we can put it in people's hands after surgery.
Finally, how long do you think it'll be before you are willing to or able to prescribe this to someone?
I think as soon as it's available, because with weeks. because it's already out there, and it's now that it's got the FDA approval, hopefully insurance will start covering it. But again, I want to continue to make sure that data keeps flowing in, because if we're now switching all the opioids for this, we better be sure that this medicine is what it promises.
Hopefully the commercials have a great jingle. Dr. Coley, have a great weekend. We got through January.
We did.
We made it.
Barely, but we got through January. We'll see you in February. Thanks.